Hello, 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 hello.
Hello, hello.
Thank you for being on the Empoweredpreneur podcast. This is so exciting. I'm really happy to have you here. Tiffany, you are the owner, founder of the Golden Line Spiritual Studio in Warkworth. You have the most beautiful shop I've ever
Aw,
seen.
thank you. Thank you.
More than that, you seem to have really built a community of spiritual seekers in a small town. And I think that that is incredible. So,
Oh,
Tiffany,
thank
once
you.
again, yeah, welcome. But can you maybe just
Thank
tell
you.
us a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and your shop?
Oh my goodness. I'm never good with the bio. I always, whenever somebody's like, introduce yourself, say like what you do. It's so hard because I do kind of a ridiculous amount that it almost feels embarrassing to be like, this is all of the things that I do. Well, okay, where to start? Yes, I have a shop. I have a brick and mortar shop in Warkworth. It's an ethically sourced crystal ritual tool shop, which I love. But it is just sort of like the landing space, I think, for what matters a little bit more broadly to me, which is my community, which are the offerings that I provide for that community, but also like mostly for myself. I've only ever started those offerings because I myself needed that and I needed that community. So in a broader sense, I also do like full moon circles. My husband and I provide medicine ceremonies. I do light frequency meditations, breath work. I'm also a metaphysical reverend, and so I can marry you, and I can bury you, and I can name your babies. And I
Nice.
don't know. I'm an energy healer. So, like again,
Awesome.
and I probably missed something, but all of those things, I suppose, is the bio of who I am or what I am currently doing.
I love that. And
Yeah.
I really do think that that is such a true picture of the entrepreneurial journey because I think that true entrepreneurs are the ones who are just not afraid to try everything and do
Hmm.
everything and wear
Hmm.
all of the many hats. I think we don't start like outsourcing and hiring and doing things with our business until we finally get to what I'm learning is that breaking point of like okay, I seriously like need help now and to get there
Yeah.
we do it all and
We
no
do.
regret
Yeah.
like I do a lot too in my business and behind the scenes and I think it's all part of what we're doing here to learn and grow and expand personally, right?
Yeah,
um
I think for me, because what my business has become an expression of my own spiritual path, it wouldn't be a true reflection if it wasn't so multifaceted, because my own spiritual path is so multifaceted. The journey has been splintered in so many different directions, and not like splintered in a bad way, but in that there are so many paths to awakening and knowing yourself. And so I have really delved deep into so many paths because I've really been doing this since I was ridiculously young. I tell people I'm an energy healer of 20 years, and they're like, pardon? What? And it's like, well, yeah, I did it before I was cool. I did it like when I was in my teens and I was working at a nutrition store, and all of my mentors were learning Reiki. And I was like, wait, that sounds really neat. And I wanted to do it then. And so I have literally been doing it for almost over 20 years at this point.
that's
Um,
amazing.
and so, although I've taken so many different paths to my own spiritual understanding and awakening, I have really delved deep into each of them, and I've never let them go, if that makes sense. It's not like that was a phase and that was a phase. It was almost like a collection. I was collecting these beautiful tools and understandings and practices along the way, and I keep them all with me, and I implement them at different times when I need them. And then I also share that with my community when I feel that the energy aligns for that specific practice. And so
Yeah, I
I
love that.
one thing I do like to say to people is that one of my favorite quotes, and I hope I don't mess it up, is Jack of all trades, master of none, but sometimes better than a master of one. And we often only know the beginning part of that quote, Jack of all trades, master of none, and it's almost used as an insult. But if you actually listen to the whole thing, oftentimes better than a master of one. For me, what that's always meant, and I've identified with that, is the fact that like when we attach our identity or our ego to one specific thing that we believe we are a master at, we actually open ourselves up to so much more hurt and closed mindedness, closed sightedness, and stagnancy. And so for me, I have no shame in my game about all of the things that I do because I truly love them all and I believe in every single one of those things. So sorry,
Yes, I love that.
long winded answer.
Great answer. And I agree, and I want to add on to that too, because I genuinely like a big part of the message that I'm sharing here is following what excites you in each moment, because I
Yeah,
believe that that's how we live on our soul's purpose. That's how we
yeah,
stay on purpose. But that
yeah,
doesn't always make sense. Like I have pursued some totally what feels like off the grid stuff in my
yes,
entrepreneurial journey. Like I've started things and launched things that just didn't make sense, and they don't, they're not in alignment with my brand or who I am right now. But looking back, I'm like, no, that was absolutely something I needed to do. Like those
yeah,
lessons I got from that totally tie in, and it makes sense. But in the moment, it doesn't make sense. But it's like when you just follow what excites you, it always just
mm-hmm.
loops back in and comes
Mm-hmm.
full circle and
Mm-hmm.
brings you in that path. So I think that's amazing. Hey, I want to know more about how did you get this brick and mortar? What did you do before? So you worked at a health food store when you were young, but how did you get to this point?
Well, like I have literally worked since the second somebody told me I was old enough to do that. And in doing so, I ended up working for a lot of small business owners, which I didn't realize and had no desire to be a small business owner. But what I recognize now is that the universe was putting in my path these experiences. And some of those small business owners taught me what not to do. And some of those small business owners taught me exactly what to do. And so I have had a great many jobs throughout my life, lots of little, I worked at a nutrition store. I worked at a really cool shoe store on Queen Street in Toronto called Get Outside Shoes. Big shout out to Doug, the owner there, because he taught me inadvertently so much. Which is incredible. He would constantly be drilling these little mantras into our head. About like giving 8 hours to community, to our job, to whatever it is that we are kind of giving of ourselves to, and then giving 8 hours to ourselves and whatever it is that we're interested in, what fills us up, and then sleeping for 8 hours. And it was just this, I know it seems like silly, but like obviously that breaks down the 24 hours in a day. But when you wrap your head around that, it's literally the most perfect balance that you could probably find. I don't really want to work for 8 hours a day, but I get it. I get what he's saying. And it's not necessarily that you're working for 8 of those hours, but you're giving of yourself to others for those 8 hours and giving to yourself for 8 and sleeping for 8. And so that's something that I really picked up from him. And he also he was very generous as a small business owner. He'd take us on beautiful and like mind expanding trips. I got to go to New York City with him when I was really young and another colleague because we had, hit a sales mark above other people. And I won't forget, I've never forgot that. I never had been to New York. I never had traveled in that capacity. And he took care of us from start to finish. And it was a generosity that was really unexpected in from a small business owner. And he always did things like that for us, made sure we had snacks in the staff room, music. We always felt really happy to be there. And so um, I've taken that piece of learning from him, and I love taking my staff when I go to gem shows, or even if we're just road tripping to Toronto or past Toronto to a wholesaler. I love to take them if they want to come, and we have food together, and we just have time outside of the space of the shop together, which is really fun. And so, again, another incredible person along my journey. And there was little spickle spackles of other jobs in there. And then I found myself teaching at Durham College just before I decided to open up the brick and mortar. Um, I always knew that I wanted to have a shop or a studio of sorts. I ran it out of my home for a great many years. but I never envisioned myself as a small business owner. And that sounds really strange because it's like, well, wait, Tiff, like you said, you wanted to have this place, but I didn't actually consider the business side of things. I just knew I wanted a landing space for my community. And when I did start looking for shops and places to rent, and nothing was aligning because it really mattered to me that it balanced with my family life. And a building on our main street in our tiny little village came up for sale. And my neighbors behind us happened to be real estate agents. And they said, this is the time. This is perfect. This is the place. And I laughed at them. I was like, there's zero chance that we're talking like 2020. So we're like right in the height of COVID. No one's working. My husband's laid off. I'm just working basically remotely online with Durham College, and they're telling me that we're going to buy this building for like $500,000. And I'm like, okay. I was actually
Good
kind
old
of pissed. I know I had been pissed to even go look at it because I was like, of course I'm going to love this. Of course, I've been in there before and seen the shop that currently occupies it. Like, of course I'm going to love this building. And so we went in anyways, and we looked at it from like a buyer's point of view because there's people who we would be being a landlord to. There's people who rent above us and behind us. And I loved it. And I said, well, that was fun. But again, I have to just like dream on because I can't afford this right now. And then we took off for the weekend to see my parents who live on Georgian Bay. And we were all just hanging out and having dinner. And I said, you know, it's so crazy. I went and saw this building on Main Street in Warkworth, and I love it so much, and I could so see myself there. It just breaks my heart. It's not something I can do right now. And my parents turned to me and they said, let's do it. I was like, what? I literally like choked on what it was I was eating. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, it makes me emotional right now to even recount because I just, in that moment, I was like, no, I can't let you do that. Like, they were just going to kind of help us get the mortgage and share part of that with us. And I honestly thought they were joking. And I didn't really know how to receive that level of generosity as well. But from a lot of my own spiritual understanding, it's like when the doors open, you have one or another choice, which is either walk through that door and accept the abundance, accept and receive what's being given to you, or be closed off from that potential. And I decided to accept and receive. And that's how we got the building. And that's how I have my brick and mortar, which feels like a miracle. And I'm very grateful for that opportunity because I certainly could not have done it on my own and never saw that was going to be a potential for me. But here we are today, almost 3 years in. Yeah.
I love that
Yeah.
story. That's really good. Thank you for painting that picture.
Mm-hmm.
And it's awesome to know that you have parents who believe in you so much too. That's really what I got from
Yeah.
that is they knew that you were gonna make this happen and you weren't messing around.
No, I've
So
never really messed around with anything in my life.
yeah.
I think my mom does know that about me. She does know that I'm a very passionate and driven person. I think it has taken my parents a really long time to see me as the person that I am today and to accept what it is that I do. That certainly did not come easy, but I do give my mom a lot of credit, especially in these later years, for believing in me and kind of coming around and seeing my vision come together and respecting what it is that I have created. But that hasn't been by no means has that been an easy thing either. And so I think that's important for people to hear that sometimes you have to believe in yourself when absolutely nobody else does, or you have to see your vision clearly when other people think that you're crazy or it's muddled or that it's not likely. You have to hold that vision for yourself always.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
other people will come around. They'll come
Yeah,
around.
yeah. Were you raised with that? Like, I mean, obviously you have incredibly supportive parents who believe in you, but what kind of role modeling did they do for you? Because I feel like a lot of this is they don't teach us entrepreneurship in school. They don't teach us this
No,
determination, this mindset. We're not taught that in school. So,
no.
how did your parents kind of model this work ethic and ability to you?
Um, uh, um, through a lot of wounding, actually. I
Mm,
think that my entrepreneur spirit and perseverance comes from a very, very, very heavy masculine energy influence of, you know, just put your head down, work really hard. No one's looking out for you. You have to always provide for yourself. There's going to be no parachute to catch you if you fall. It's all on you. Lack mentality, basically constantly save for a rainy day. And so while that wounding has driven me to this place as a business owner and entrepreneur, I have now, as I'm resting in that role, I am now healing that wounding by leaning into my feminine and understanding that abundance is my birthright. And now I'm trying to deprogram that while also continuing to find the positives of the masculine energy that I've had to that's been shown to me and that was very much a part of me. But it's also been probably the hardest aspect of being a business owner is recognizing that and the way it plays into burnout and exhaustion and apathy.
I love that. And I
Yeah.
can really share a similar background too with like my upbringing is, I'm a very strong and resilient person, and you don't become strong and resilient without things that make you strong and resilient. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep that in mind with my children too, is I don't want to give my children everything that they ask for. I don't want to make life too easy for them. They need to be able to learn how to have that resilience and overcome and persevere. And yeah, that's it's hard because it's like it's hard when you go through these hard things, but they really do
Mhm.
help us evolve
Mhm.
and make us stay on track once again with our purpose, right?
Yeah.
And you are a healer, and I know what got me into my healing journey was my own pain and suffering. And I
Yeah.
really and I feel that that's true for a lot of healers. We're highly empathic beings who
Yeah.
um, we just want to help the world because we feel it so deeply.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful place to be, but I'm grateful for that because I know I am healing, and I know you're healing other people and helping, and we're making a difference. But recognizing that we do have to take care of ourselves, that
Yeah.
8 hour mentality,
Yeah.
that's true. You do need to give those 8 hours to yourself. I know what it's like when I don't do it. I feel it. My body screams at me to take a break and rest
Yeah.
and do what I need. And yeah, I can go out of alignment really easy doing that.
Yeah.
What
Especially in
has
that, sorry, I was just going to say, especially in that budding phase, I think that there is sort of this space in the entrepreneur journey where things are going to be out of balance because you do have to push for what you want. You have to push for what you want. You have to show up and you have to build that empire, quote unquote empire, etc. But then it's recognizing when you have and then resting in that. It's the same thing with our healing journey. So often we see in the world of spirituality and healing the pursuit of constant healing, when what we need to do is give ourselves space to rest in our healedness when we are in that place. Because when we rest in our healed space or we rest in the abundance that we've created, we allow other people to either be healing or see that it's okay to do that as well. If that makes it,
mm,
it creates spaciousness and
yeah. And
and
it would allow us to be more present too, because a lot of the
yeah.
healing journey can take you out of the moment, right? You're going into your past and your shadow and all these hard, dark places, and yeah, that we do need to really integrate the lessons that we've learned. I see
Mhm.
so much value in that, and I thank you. I love that.
Mhm.
So what has been then, your biggest obstacle with where you're getting to where you're at? And, we discovered purchasing the space, like that's amazing that you were able to do that. Because it just seems like such a smart business investment too, in the sense of like you have that property, right? That real estate. If God forbid something goes wrong, you have to close your
Yeah.
doors. It's like it's not all for nothing. That is a very great investment, and I think that there's something to be valued about the fact that taking that extra leap and really committing and investing yourself in that, it would give you
Mhm.
so much more security. But what, aside from securing that, because that's a
Yeah.
huge endeavor on its own,
Yeah.
what have been some of your biggest obstacles with doing this?
I think they all relate back to what I was talking about in regards to my wounding. My wounding around receiving or resting in abundance, because I was always taught that, like, I have a lot of messaging from my upbringing that um, everything that you love and everything that you're doing can disappear in the blink of an eye. Like, you can never feel safe. You are never protected unless you are protecting yourself. Basically, just hustle, 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 hustle. And I have seen that mentality wreak havoc on my body. Back in October, I had to have my gallbladder removed. I've had chronic kidney issues. I've almost had a kidney failure. Um, and what I know on an energetics level is that what's stored in those elimination organs are fear, frustration, lack, all of those energies that I battle with on a very personal and spiritual level, because I know at my innermost being, in my core, on a cellular level, that everything is okay. I am abundant. Everything always works out for me. And I don't mean that in just an egocentric way. I mean, everybody has access to that. And so learning to rest in that space, and learning that creativity and expansion comes so much more gracefully from a space of rest. And so that's been a really, really big learning lesson for me, I would say, like on a more esoteric level. And then on a very practical level, learning how to be a business owner, because I do not have a business mind. I am not a business minded person. I am an intuitive. I am a creative. And like, when I say I don't have a business mind, like, I was blessed by incredible teachers who knew that I was a good student, I was a good person, and I really truly gave it my best. And I just could not understand math. I was never a mathematical human. So in like grade 11, they were like, so what do you want to do in university? Okay, you don't want to get into sciences. You don't want to, we will pass you at, like, I think I got a 54, which was like the absolute minimum I needed to stay in the university level learning. And they just said, okay, we're going to give it to you. I was on student council. I was involved. My grades and everything else were great or good. My only grade that was great was in religion. Go figure. But um, definitely wasn't in math. And so, and like you said, nobody teaches you how to be an entrepreneur, and even more so the nitty gritty of like having employees, taxes, remittances, all of these like things. You're like, what, huh? What are you talking about? That for me happened overnight. Like, the golden line brick and mortar happened overnight. It was like I seized a moment of opportunity, and then it was like do. It just expanded exponentially, and I was caught having to catch up. And for the last few years, on a business level, I do feel like I've been treading water at best to know what the hell I am doing. And so that has looked like learning to ask people for help and say,
Mm.
I don't understand. And you might explain to me 20,000 times something to do with math or business, and I'm still going to look at you with eyes crossed and be confused. And so that's me now learning to delegate and get a bookkeeper and have an accountant. I've just recently incorporated my business, which was a big step, and a learning lesson. And so I've had the esoteric learning of I don't have to sacrifice myself, um, in the pursuit of success and security. And then on the other side, it's learning to identify that I am not I am not a boss babe. I'm a creative and I'm an intuitive. And when I run my business from that space and I delegate the things I don't love to people who are good at them, then everything just flows so much better and I can actually sleep at night. I'm not waking up being like, did
That's
I
the CEO mindset. Yeah.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
and that's also like that combats with the lack mentality that I was raised in. It's kind of like, well, no, I don't want to pay somebody to do that because then that's less for me. But then you learn like, oh, well, my bookkeeper, she lives 15 minutes down the road. I am helping employ somebody in my community, and like there's all of those different ways that you can reframe that and learn to heal from that mentality, and truly it just creates more space for more abundance to flow in and then flow out, flow in, flow out. And so that's been my biggest learning lesson on both sides of the coin.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. What resources like what how have you taught yourself these things? What do you find works best? Do you have any any other podcasts or any books that you read that really just helped you, or mentors that helped you learn quickly?
Um, my husband,
Yeah.
my husband, him and I, we've been together now for 20 years. We've grown up together. I have watched him, as I mentioned during COVID, he was laid off. And he looked at that as an opportunity to grow and expand himself. And so he decided to become a master journeyman and open his own company, electrical company at the same time. And he has a mind for it. And so because I can come to him in the most intimate ways and all the times where I feel like the world is crashing around me, he is this insane soft space to land, who his mind is so one pointed. He has found such insane meditative spaciousness around life, that he can just lay it out to me in the most loving yet simplistic way. And so I have learned a great deal from him, just because he just has that aptitude for business and he can just break it down and be like, it's so simple. It's just so simple. Look at it this way. And so he is my grounding force and my space of just my space of clear mindedness. And so I am they always say in relationships, there's always one that's like, and that's me. That is me. I'm always flowing in different directions and I have all these big ideas and I love being creative and I birth so much out into this world just through complete inspiration and intuition. And he birthed so much out into this world from a very steady, collected space.
Mm.
And so we really complement each other. And I wish I could say it was this book or that book or this podcast or that podcast. And I'm sure a podcast like this can be exceptionally helpful to people. But I've just been lucky enough to have this wealth of knowledge laying next to me in bed at night.
Yeah, that's a hack. That's a life hack right there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I have a similar experience with my husband too. Like he really is my partner, and I see how like our souls chose each other to just be partners in earth together.
Yeah.
And same thing, like he really has this calm, grounded, like we're so our opposites, similar to yours. I think I'm the dreamer, he's the realist, right? So he
Yeah.
is very much grounded living in the earth, and I am constantly up in the ethereal like just
Yeah.
making things happen. But then there's the odd time where I'm like lost and he'll just tether me, pull me back down,
Yeah.
and it's so important. But same thing where I can lift him up too. When he's just being a little bit too realistic, I can bring that inspiration and the dreams, and it works so well. The opposites attract. Opposites are needed. I could not be with someone like me. We would not have a house. We wouldn't have any stability. Like, it wouldn't
Yeah.
work.
The bills wouldn't be paid, the lights wouldn't be on, that's for sure.
No, no. Like, it would be too extreme. So it's
Yeah.
good. It's good. What is the best piece of advice that someone's given you in this journey? Like, I find I go to these places where I remember certain things people said to me, and that kind of gets me through when I'm struggling, or I'm like, okay, yeah. Do you have that narrative in your head?
Um, I wouldn't say that I have any specific piece of advice that was given to me that was like a, aha moment. But I certainly have just a select few people who didn't think my vision was crazy. Like, um, I have never taken what would be considered quote unquote the easy way in life. And like, for example, while all of my other peers were deciding what they were doing in their university careers, and they were picking, oh, I'm going to be a doctor, or I'm going to go into the trades, or I'm going to be a teacher, or I was like, well, I don't really know. I think I want to study religion and spirituality. And both my parents looked at me and were like, what in the world are you going to do with that? Like, that sounds insane. Like, are you going to go to theology school and like become a priest, or like what in the world do you do with that? And I really didn't have that answer, but I did have certain people in my life that just believed in me and said, don't worry about what career or path you're going to take from this. If that is like what truly fills you up, then that's what you need to do. And two of those people, when one was my actually my high school religion teacher, Tim Linehan at St. Mary's in Coburg, shout out. He's still working there, and he changes students' lives every day, I'm sure. But I got A's across the board in religion, like A plus plus plus. Like, I could not have gotten a higher grade. I, in fact, actually graduated high school with an award for religious studies excellence. And it was him who kind of was like, you can study this. Like, this is something people do. And I didn't even know that was a pathway that was possible. And so he showed me that pathway. And then there was another sweet, sweet old lady, Mrs. Goldenstein, who used to visit me at the work that I was working at during high school. And again, she'd come in as this ray of light, and we'd have these mind opening conversations. And she'd always say to me, Tiffany, you're an intuitive. You need to do this. This needs to be your life path. And again, I never heard anybody tell me that I could make something out of that. And so that's why the golden line is called the golden line, because I've put their two names together, Mrs. Goldenstein and Mr. Linehan. And that's how I've gotten the golden line. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's huge inspiration. That's huge
Yeah.
inspiration.
Yeah. And
Those
so they
teachers
did.
really can make or break it for people. Like, yeah.
Totally. And like, definitely. And that's even, again, another lesson I've carried with myself when I taught at Durham College to my students who were in that college space, being like, what am I going to do with my life? Half the time they were in programs they already knew that they didn't want to make their career. And so I would instill in them a lot of those lessons from Mr. Linehan, which was like, find what lights you up. What essay topic are you writing about that lights you up? What are you doing during the day that lights you up? Like, figure out how you can make that something that your life is built around. And that doesn't always mean that that's your career or your business. That's the other thing we have to recognize, is sometimes our dharmic path and purpose is not the role that we inhabit that makes us money. It can be what we do outside. It can be not the 8 hours that we give, but the 8 hours that we live. And so teaching my students that, or just passing that wisdom forward, I think made me successful as a professor myself, because a lot of them really trusted in me, loved coming to my class, and I would give them the space in those classes to write about whatever they wanted. I was never one of those professors that was like, here are your essay topics. I would say to them, you need to do good research. You need to do all of the proper steps. But I want you to write about absolutely anything and absolutely any style you want, because that's going to be the best piece of writing you can give me. And I think through a lot of those students then went out and actually figured out what they love.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. I absolutely love it. So, what's the best piece of advice that you have to give someone? So, say we're talking to Tiffany pre 2020, she's teaching and she's like, I love religion. I want to heal. I want to help people. What piece of advice do you have to give that person?
Oh, just hold that vision in your field. Just hold it. I've held this vision and I continuously see it's unfolding and trusting it's unfolding since I was like 15 years old. I remember um, there was a lot of addiction happening in my family home at the time in different ways, in various ways. And so a big driving force of why I wanted to do this was recognizing that the spiritual path is how we come home to ourselves and we release our need for outside substances, outside attention, whatever it is, all of those things that are very vapid and fleeting. And what I wanted to do, that was really why I wanted to work with my community, was to, whether it was somebody was struggling with addiction or whatever they're struggling with, whatever darkness or shadow they were struggling with, I wanted to create a space where they could come home to themselves. And so the crystal shop was never in my field of vision, but it happened and it was birthed as a necessity for my larger vision that I know is still unfolding. And so, literally, when I was 15 years old, I said, someday I'm going to have something called the Golden Line Spiritual Studio when I was 15. And it's going to be a space for community to heal. Because when we heal individually, we heal the collective. We heal our homes, we heal our workplaces, we heal the world at large. And so I was completely open to what that space would look like and what that space would accomplish. But I held the vision as that being the core purpose. And this is what has unfolded around it. And so if you can just figure out what lights you up and what the core purpose is, hold that vision. Just hold it, but allow it to grow and expand and unfold as the universe sees fit, because oftentimes we are given things that we could not have ever expected that are the key to our happiness and to our abundance. And because, like, a lot of people don't believe me when I say I never had any intention to have a crystal shop. Yes, I love crystals, they're beautiful, but for me, what they are is they're an invitation inside. Those crystals and those ritual tools are a starting point. You go into my shop, I invite you to clear your head and be in your body, whether you have an intention or you're just open to receiving. And then from that very grounded space of connection, then you're supposed to go and look for something. And that's why, for me, it's really important that I have those little cards that express the metaphysical purposes and the mantra and the elements and the energy of that stone or that crystal. Because what I want you then to do is, when you have grounded and found that stone or that crystal, I want you to reflect on what you've just called in. And how does that mean to you? What does that mean to you? And how is that affecting your current energy space and in your field? And so, again, I love crystals. I'm very grateful that that's been part of this journey and this unfolding, because I got Venus all over my astro chart. So those beautiful little things make me happy, so deeply happy. And I see how they make other people so deeply happy. But they're just things. They're just spiritual materialism at the end of the day. But what they do is they open yourself up to thinking about your awareness, thinking about your energy. I see how they connect couples. I see how they connect mothers and daughters. I see how they connect families. And that is what I could never have anticipated that they would do, and how they have come into this journey for me and for my expansion and for my dharmic purpose. And so hold the vision, but don't be closed off to how that vision could flow and unfold, because it could just become something you could never have imagined. And this is truly something I could never have imagined.
Wow, that is so cool. That's so cool. There's just yeah, like I love that. I love that because there's so much of a message there too, and the marketing behind that and the business mindset. Like even though you're unintentionally did that, it's like the crystals being the door in, and the possibilities from there are endless. And you can
Yeah.
take people on such powerful journeys and really help them feel something and help make a difference. And that's the stuff right there. That's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. So, what
Mm-hmm.
is your vision for the golden line from 5 years from now? How do you plan on scaling? What kind of strategies do you have in place to get to where you want to be?
My strategy is just to continuously learn and to continuously listen, because that's basically all I've done is just continuing to keep my heart and my mind open, and the universe provides. As I mentioned, the vision around the golden line was birthed from a space where I was seeing a lot of addiction and disruption in my home, not for myself, but for the people around me. And at a young age, not knowing what tools to give them, but sort of being the steady for a lot of people. And so part of my vision is figuring out how to help people with addictions, and so that we can start becoming cycle breakers. I have cycle breakers in our home. We don't have, we're a sober household entirely here. And so there was a point in time where I questioned, like, this is a crystal shop and I do full moon ceremonies. I'm really unsure how I'm seeing my broader vision unfold. And that was when my husband, who's also deeply spiritual, said, there are some medicines that have been brought into his life, and he decided he wanted to step up as a medicine holder. And he also has dealt with addiction in his life, and this has been a key to his healing. And through that, in these different medicines, we are now offering private and group ceremonies that help people to release traumas, and deal with addiction. And so again, I'm watching this new leaf unfold on the tree of this dharmic path and purpose, where again I would have never saw that that's how that would have happened. And it's only happened through staying completely open, just quieting the mind and opening the heart and just allowing myself to listen and see and trust the unfolding. And so you asking me what is it going to look like, what are my strategies for the next 5 years? I don't have strategies aside from remaining wide open, just wide open.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's done a great job this far. Like, it's
Right?
really working for
Surrender.
you.
Just
Yeah, remaining
surrender.
wide
Yeah.
open and saying yes to, I guess, what feels good, right? What
Yeah.
lights you up, like your teacher said.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, where can people find you online? And you have a lot to offer online too. Like you're
Yeah.
always posting great information, and I find your
Thank
page to be
you.
really empowering and really supportive. And I feel like regardless of where people are at on their journey, you're just a good follow, a good person to follow. Could you maybe
Oh,
just tell people where they can follow you too?
thank you. I would definitely say predominantly to follow me on Instagram at underline the or underscore underline the golden line. That'll always be my landing page as long as as long as Instagram exists. I do have a website which unfortunately is slightly in flux, but I do believe it's www.thegoldenlinespiritualstudio.com, where you can find a listing of all of the different services I offer. And when I am wearing my Boss Babe pants, then sometimes I have my offerings listed there. But as mentioned, this is very intuitively ran for me. And so a lot of the times it'll be like, all right, I'm feeling the collective needs this. And so I will just post an offering on Instagram, and those who need that will show up. And so I would say Instagram is the best place to find me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And do you sell some stuff online too? Do you ship crystals and
Oh
everything from your
yeah,
store?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And we
Awesome.
are so crystals and ritual tools starting to broaden that for sort of the community that are in the ceremonial world as well, who want to get their hands on some stuff that is used in ceremony too. And so that's at www.thegoldenlinespiritualstudio.com, and there should be a link from my Instagram to my shop.
Awesome. And
Yeah.
anyone looking for just a nice road trip to a cute small town in Ontario,
Yes.
Warkworth, it is such a cute shop. And it
So
looks like
magic.
Warkworth's really developing too. Like I think you've got like a nice little restaurant right near you and some
Yeah.
other cute things. So yeah, it'd be a good day out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you,
Warkworth is
Tiffany.
magical. Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I'm so grateful to
Yeah,
be here.
yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Awesome.